Hello, everyone. I'm a doctoral candidate at National Law University, Delhi, and my paper is on the dynamics of digital service platforms in India. So I would be basically dealing with the law and regulatory framework that is there. Now, yesterday, a number of panels had already discussed about platform work and the laws and policies in other countries. Compared to those, the legal developments in India are mostly at a very nascent stage. Now, there has been, my basic objective here then is to analyze how the service professionals contracts with the platforms and their experiences of work with the platforms may help us in devising a regulatory framework for these kind of new forms of organization. And I use the term service professionals to refer to to platform workers, only because I'm not making any assumptions of their legal relationship with the platforms, whether they are employees or independent contractors, etc. So I've just chosen a neutral term. There's no other implication of it. India has been undergoing a labor policy overhaul. New labor codes have already been passed by our parliament and they would be enforced anytime soon. Now, there is a new code on Social Security 2020, and it has got some interesting definitions. For example, it has got a definition of platform work directly, and it outrightly declares that platform work is any work outside the a framework of a traditional employer-employee relationship. So there's no question about that. And I'm not sure if this provision will stay as it is or it's going to be challenged in the courts after this law is enforced. That is quite possible. But as of now, we have this proposed in our law. And there's also a broader definition of gig worker, which has a platform worker as well as offline workers whose activities are outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. Now, the only thing that this Code of Social Security does is that it empowers the central government. It does not mandate, but it only empowers the central government to frame social security schemes for gig and platform workers, and those may be related to retirement benefits or accident insurance, etc., etc. Those schemes may be funded either by the central or the state governments, that is the provincial governments in India, or wholly by the platform, or partly by the platform and partly by the gig worker or service professional and partly by the government. So any kind of combination is possible. There are also other codes which are proposed in India, that is the code on wages, the industrial relations code, and the occupational safety and health code, but unfortunately nothing at all about platform workers or service professionals is mentioned in these codes. There have also been certain developments on the collective action front. Quite a few unions have come up, and one of them, that is the Indian Federation of App-Based Transport Workers, which was formed in 2019, it filed a public interest litigation, which is kind of the Indian version of a class action suit, not exactly the same, but similar. So it filed a public interest litigation on behalf of the service professionals, demanding that they be recognized as quote unquote unorganized workers. Under the Unorganized Workers Social Welfare Security Act. So it's similar to be recognized as under the Social Security Code, but the only difference is here, if they are organized, if they are recognized under this older law, they would be recognized as workers. That is, they would get an employee status and they won't be outside the framework of employee-employer relationship. And the second one, that they be recognized as frontline workers. This is mostly related to COVID and their benefits. Now, there's another there are also other theoretical underpinnings to my research, mostly from other jurisdictions which have advanced more in terms of regulatory frameworks, trying to devise laws and policies on service professionals. So various jurisdictions have either tried to categorize them as independent contractors, or on the other end of the spectrum, there is EU's proposed directive, which tries to make a presumption of employment in case of platform workers. And then there's the third category in various jurisdictions, like in Canada, there's a very old category of dependent contractors. And then in other countries, there's subordinate employees is the Italian version. I'm not very fluent in these languages, so I've used the English translation of it. So that might be not the exact translation, but yes. And also in Colombia, we have quote unquote this concept of economically dependent platform workers. And in other cases, we have economically dependent self-employed workers. So these are categories are made, and various jurisdictions give some of the rights of the employees to these service professionals, while some other rights are not given. Likewise, we also have various academic opinions. So Professor Valerio Stefano prefers that these workers be not categorized as any third category, but they be recognized as casual workers. He terms it as 21st century casual work rebranded, and they came out with a sort of manifesto a couple of years back in which they demanded that minimum wages be given to them and some other labor rights like individual and collective action, their action be recognized, and then other occupational safety and health rights be given. Other scholars, some scholars from the US say that no, they should be given the status of independent worker. So they should be given rights like freedom to organize and collectively bargain, and other civil protection rights like right against discrimination, but not other rights like minimum wages, overtime, or unemployment benefits because they are not technically employees or workers. Some other scholars like Foster says that the categorization itself is not important as much as the rights that ensue from it. So we need to focus more on the rights. So they have, she says that these service professionals or platform workers should be given minimum wages. There should be transparency, and due process should be followed in terms of ratings and assessment. And I agree with such scholars when they say that the status itself, the name of the status, is not as important as the rights that actually should be given to them. So how do we decide which rights and remedies should be given to these workers? ILO has actually compiled a number of factors which are used in various jurisdictions to determine their rights. And those include the flexibility of working time, the control that the platform exercises through technology, the use of business equipment, and other things. And also the most important, the overarching framework here becomes the particular facts and circumstances of every case. So what else can we recognize? Since particular facts and circumstances are so important, I thought of studying the Indian platform workers and ask them what do they experience, so that we can cull out important factors from there as well. So my questions are: how does the platforms control over working conditions and influence the service professionals' working hours and earnings and short and long-term financial security, work-life balance, and decision-making power at work? And secondly, what are the salient features of professionals' experience that can be used as important factors when determining their rights as platform workers? There are two platforms that I've selected for my research. One is a food delivery platform, and another is a home-based salon and spa services platform. These are both multinational Indian companies, basically with multinational presence, and the food delivery platform is over a decade old. And the salon and spa services platform was set up in 2014. The sources of my data include the contracts that these platforms have with the customers, that is the end users, as well as the service professionals. Then I have conducted field interviews. Then I have also tried to look at news and other social media to gather other information about their evolving solidarities, as well as to triangulate my data that I collected through the interviews. And then I've looked at other case laws and academic materials. The fieldwork was conducted between February to June, and it was composed of 35 semi-structured interviews. The location was limited to New Delhi. The age range was of the platform workers was 18 to 55 years, and there were men as well as women. I used convenient sampling at first. Whoever I could access, I talked to those service professionals. But after that, I selected only those for my sampling who at least had worked for a period of 3 months who were attached at least for a period of 3 months with the platform. So the work experience ranged from 3 months to 4 years. So semi-structured interviews revolved around questions on their work-life balance, their decision-making power, the rating system, what effect, how basically the platforms try to control them and their work. And also I made an account on the platforms to check their terms and conditions and other entry barriers. There was also a small experiment done as a disguised participant observer. I just booked the services of the platforms on 2 occasions and just to observe how the beauty service professionals behave and represent the platform in front of a customer. But since there were research ethics concerns, I did not include those 2 samples in my final sample. Now, what I've gained through this kind of research is that, firstly, by studying the contracts, similar things that are going on in the other jurisdictions came out. So I won't be discussing it in detail, but just to mention it, there is a new kind of relationship being constructed between the parties, the customer, the service professional, and the platform. So they're using old legal concepts like independent contractor, agency, or service provider, and they are trying to frame new legal relationship just to ensure that every party is responsible, but the platform is not liable for any deficiency in service of the service professional. Now, the control over service professionals is exercised in a variety of ways. These are similar to what is going on in other jurisdictions. So I won't discuss each and every point here, but just the important ones include training sessions conducted by the platforms for the newly joined service professionals through videos, and they also take a small examination which indicates control. And also an important thing in the beauty service platform that I found was if the rating of the service professional fell below a certain threshold, even the old platform workers would be sent to for retraining. And their accounts would be blocked for at least 6 days, and their accounts would not be reactivated unless they passed the examination in that training. There are control on earnings in various ways, very similar to other jurisdictions. But then I want to highlight 2 points. One, there is unilateral fixing of charges and changing the charges. And secondly, there is that is done very frequently. So without notice, the platform would change the delivery charges and the commissions and the discounts for the customers. And the platform workers would come to know it only after they open their app and try to book a service or to try to accept a service request. And so that leads to an asymmetry of information between the parties, which should be a consideration while devising any kind of regulatory framework.
2 minutes.
The third sorry?
2 minutes.
Okay. So these are the problems which service professionals face. And I would quickly come to IP. One thing I wanted to highlight here is that we should note that the delivery partner, though it does not take the responsibility, the platform does not take the responsibility of the delivery partner in terms of service and all, does not give adequate wages, but then it uses the service of the platform worker to further its goodwill and reputation and build on its intellectual property and brand image. So that should be taken into account while deciding minimum wages. And my proposal is that we should think towards mandating a sharing of profit per order, if that is possible. The influence on the life and work of service professionals is that they earn very low wages, maybe a USD 12.19 per hour for 10 to 12 hours of work. And if you're on a bicycle, you earn even less because the company reduces the rates of partners with bicycle. But then even then mandating minimum wages as has been proposed by many scholars and in many jurisdictions, I don't think that is going to work in a place like India because already the minimum wages are very low. So minimum wages would be somewhere around 218 USD per month for a place like New Delhi, but for per month, the professionals are already earning USD 243, and in case of beauty service professionals, USD 365. So it won't be a very good idea to implement this minimum wage in case of India. I think we should proceed towards thinking about living wage for them. The individual grievance redressal mechanisms are also very weak. And so since time is short, I would just come to the conclusion. So this is a summary of my suggestions that minimum wages won't work in India. So we should think about living wages. There's a risk of safety because these delivery partners deliver food even at night. So there are cases of theft and robbery, and the platforms have tried to evade responsibility by saying that when they are traveling, that does not come under our workplace. So you cannot technically count the road where they are traveling as a workplace. So we are not liable for if anything happens. So that should be curbed. There should be regulatory mechanism to deal with frauds in payment. For example, if there's a customer delivery charges on the professionals apps are generally lower, and the customer who's booking the service, generally the customer is shown a higher service fee, but that much the platform does not pay the service professional. So there should be transparency as well. And just one last point is that a new trend that is coming up in case of platforms is that the platforms are also hiring third-party entities to handle back-end operations, for example, cash transactions. And if any problems occur during that time, or if any problems occur due to the activities of the third party, there is really no mechanism for the platform workers to complain. So that also should be taken into account. Thank you.